All right. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. You're here with Tom and you're here with George. Hello, George.
Hello.
What's happening?
Nothing. What are you doing?
Well, we had a green day today, but it kind of dwindled for the last 2.5 hours of the day. So this was, I think this was a good day, but actually it was a much better day 2.5 hours ago. We'll go through it. I also think it was a good week. We're going to go through, today's numbers, this week. We'll do our year to date. We're going to do all our normal stuff, a couple of big press releases, a bunch of stuff happening politically around the world. Japan's raising interest rates. We got, a lot of stuff going on in the U.S., so we're going to get to all of those things. A lot of stuff going on in the market, a lot of stuff going on in Bitcoin, some interesting stuff, some articles starting to be written about Bitcoin miners. This is really the first time I'm seeing that pick up some momentum and some steam. I'm seeing Bitcoin miner articles versus just, the millions and millions of Bitcoin articles that are out there. So I'm encouraged by that. I'm still encouraged so far. It's very early. It's only January 24th, but 24 days in, I feel like this year's headed in the right direction. And I know we had a couple of days, I will tell you, on the members only stream was Tuesday, and it was a bad day. It was a really bad day. It was a tough day. So I want to thank all the members for joining us on the members only stream that day and going through that together. But the rest of the week actually picked up. And when we look at what happened this week, I think you're going to see it looks just fine. That's what's going on. If you are, let's see if this works. Hey, it works again. If you would be so kind as to hit the like button, it helps us. It helps the stream in real time. It helps the channel. It helps get people here to educate them and raise awareness of Bitcoin miners. We're going for 100 likes.
Did you find out what CleanSpark was talking about?
I found no, they didn't do a press release today. I couldn't find anything. So they alluded to you that something's going on. I couldn't find it.
Well,
anybody let us know in the comments if you heard any news from CleanSpark today. They were having a really good day, but like I said, a lot of stuff pulled back. Most of the Bitcoin miners finished green. Core Scientific finished down 2.2%. That was red. Hive finished down 0.6%. That was red. MicroStrategy had a rough day, and it really accelerated into the end of the day. It was green. It ended up down 5%. So other than that, the other 10 Bitcoin miners were green, and some of them had really good days. Iron was up 8.47% today, and Iron had a big press release this week. The stock tanked, and I could kick myself. I'm kind of been in a holding pattern. I did a lot of buying over the last few months. I had taken some months off, so I did not buy that dip. And, on the members only stream, we talked about it's probably going to rage. One of the members pointed out that when BitDeer did this similar thing, it, crashed for a day and then it raged for a month. So something similar seems to be happening with Iron. So that was up 8.47% today. BitDeer up 4.58% today. Cypher up 6.69%. This all on a day where Bitcoin, day over day, so I look at the BlackRock Bitcoin Trust, IBIT, it was up 1.55%. So from yesterday's close to today's close. And you can see I have yesterday's close, this gold bar right here, at 103,331. That's where Bitcoin was when the U.S. equity markets closed yesterday. Interestingly, this small dotted line, if you can see it, there's a dotted orange line right here. That's where Bitcoin was when we closed last Friday. And this is the 15-minute candle for the end of the day. I mean, we touched this, and came up just a little bit. So at one point within the last 15 minutes of the day, we were exactly to the penny where we were when we closed last Friday. We finished up, a few dollars. $100 different from last week to this week. So obviously that's a 0% move, but some of the Bitcoin miners had a nice week. Should we start there? Where do we want to start? What do we think? Is there a poll we need going? Because I'll tell you, we did some polls on the members only, and it was a rough day. I don't know if you guys remember Tuesday. You know, the market moves so fast, the news cycle moves so fast. Tuesday seems like 100 years ago. In the United States, Monday was closed for business. The markets were not open in the United States. So obviously cryptocurrency traded all day long, but the Bitcoin miners did not trade. Well, they opened on Tuesday. They just had a really bad day. So everybody was a little bit pessimistic. So let's get a poll started while we're going here. I'm just typing. Give me 1 second. All right. Words here. Okay, let's get the poll up and running. Thank you for your patience, everybody. How do you feel about the Bitcoin miners for 2025? So essentially, you know, we're near the end of January. We think 2025 is going to be a bulk of the bull run. I know some people think we're in an extended cycle that's going to go into 2026 or maybe beyond. But this, I think everybody is expecting Bitcoin to have a great year. The question is, how do you feel about the Bitcoin miners? So great, you're all in. Good, you're holding and you're buying the dips. Nervous, you're waiting to see what happens. Or I give up, I'm out of the Bitcoin miners. This is all just taking too long. I give up. Let's see where people are at. And while we're at it, if you just got here or if you have not yet done so, if you could please, oh, and now it broke. See, it worked when we started. If you could please hit the like button. It does help the stream out big time in real time. So let's get people over here. It's funny. It seems to take about a half an hour for people to get here lately.
All right. That's why I don't talk until about a half an hour in.
Miner Deegan, thank you for the super chat and thank you for being a member. Tom, it's very obvious the market is not interested in miners with no HPC AI aspirations. So we're going to get into, that's a good point, Miner Deegan, and we're definitely going to talk about that because, you know, we're following 12 Bitcoin miners and, you know, no one of those 12 has the exact same business model, but one of the factors is, you know, some are heavy into high performance computing AI. Some are dipping their toe in the water and a few have said we're not interested. So, and kind of the inverse relationship of that, although there's one with crossover, you know, some Bitcoin miners are hodling as much Bitcoin as they can, even buying Bitcoin on top of what they mine, whereas others are just selling 100% of their Bitcoin as they mine it. So yes, we'll talk more about that because there are very different philosophies even among the 12 companies that we're looking at. So, you know, you might feel good about one or the other of those things and you know, not so good depending on what their philosophy is. Sour Melon Gaming, member for just under 2 years. And apparently maybe it was a lapse in the middle. Almost 3 years since I first joined you guys. I greatly appreciate the effort you both put in. Wouldn't be where I am today without you. Love you guys. Thank you, Sour Melon Gaming. Love you too. Thanks for being a part of our team for so many years and all of your valued input through the good times, the frustrating times. Yeah, I mean, you were here during the crypto winter. So, I mean, and it's been a bumpy road, as George predicted. No, we still,
There it is.
for the Bitcoin miners in particular. I mean, Bitcoin, I feel like people got to be feeling good about. I think we're starting to create some real support at $100,000. So when you're talking about the downside being $100,000, it feels to me like we're moving in the wrong direction. I did watch a video. I didn't get all the way through it. It was a very long video, so I'll have to watch the rest later. But there is one person that I follow. I follow several people, and I've looked at, 1,000 different YouTube channels over the years. This person thinks the Bitcoin run is over, and their number one position, they are going all in. And they have a lot of subscribers. I think maybe, 80 or 100,000 subscribers. They're going all in short MicroStrategy for the year 2025. That's
Really?
I was pretty shocked because this is somebody that, follows Bitcoin.
That
They've
could
had
be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. And that's me saying that.
This person got the last cycle dead wrong, and I think he feels burned. Now, to be fair, a lot of us got the last cycle wrong. I did. I didn't think we were done in November of 2021, and we were done. We cascaded into a horrible crypto winter. So I think he got burned last time around, and he's calling it. I feel he's calling it early, but that's what the sentiment is out there all over the place. Having said that, I have 3 articles with 3 different price targets, 2 of which blew my mind. So we'll get to those later. So that's 3 different high-profile people with some pretty lofty price targets. They do not think we are at the end of the run. They think we're at the beginning of the run. And one of them thinks it's going to go into 2026, maybe beyond. Pessimistic Frank. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go. I didn't hear a pessimist.
Pessimistic.
I think that we're at the beginning of something amazing, personally.
I agree with you. I think we're at the beginning of good things for Bitcoin. I think we're at the beginning of good things for cryptocurrency. I have a bunch of stuff to show you on what's going on there in the United States. And it's very early stages. And people pressed the panic button on day 1 and day 2. And I said, just wait a second. Whereas Bitcoin might be the most important thing to all of us, it's not number 1 item on the American agenda, and it's not the first thing the president of the United States is going to address on day 1. So, there was no mention in the inauguration speech. That did not surprise me, but we've had some movement. We've had an executive order signed. We're going to get into what that is. It's really just the very beginning, but I think there's several things that happened that are very good signs that what George is talking about is right, that very good things are ahead for the cryptocurrency universe. So I happen to agree with that opinion.
And also, Tom, we are coming out of probably, hey, listen, it's whatever. Everything comes back to politics, right? We're coming out of probably the 4 years of the worst thing to America as far as just untangling the web, so to speak.
Well,
and to think that, crypto's been on the radar this whole 4 years, and there was no friends in that administration regarding crypto.
There was quite the opposite, and some of the articles we'll look at on today's stream talk about the dramatic 180-degree shift in policies, already in the first week here. So, and it's not just, it's not just the president, more so than the president. Gary Gensler, head of the SEC, was no friend to Bitcoin,
no,
to cryptocurrencies, to cryptocurrency exchanges. I mean, he sued everybody he could figure out how to sue. And I think you're going to see all of those evaporate. So, you know, it's not going to happen overnight. I do think the first 100 days, you know, people mark the first 100 days of a presidency and check in and see what's what. So while I don't think it was on the day one agenda, I think we're going to see marked progress in the first 100 days and beyond. You know, and obviously this is just in the United States, and there's stuff going on all around the world, but adoption continues. I've got some stuff on some banks looking to get some big trillion-dollar banks looking to get into cryptocurrency. So there's a lot of good stuff, I think, coming ahead. Pessimistic Frank, I'll get back to your thing. He said, oh, yes, glad I got out of CleanSpark. MicroStrategy, baby. Bitcoin to the moon this year. So Pessimistic Frank feels good about MicroStrategy versus this individual that I was watching. That's their number one position, is to short that this year. So we'll see if they undo that quickly or if they get burned or if they're right. I mean, I think most of us probably don't agree with that position. Midway, number one, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the super chat. Midway one said, with Iron, Cypher, Riot doing the best, all three have enormous megawatt sites in Texas that hyperscalers are probably extremely interested in. Maybe one of them will announce a huge AI deal in February or March. So all three that you just mentioned, and Riot put out a press release, which we'll go to next. But Iron, Cypher, Riot, you know, they're in Texas. They're looking for these hyperscalers. TerraWolf is looking for a deal, you know, where everybody's waiting for that to happen, you know, waiting day after day. So, you know, I'm surprised we haven't gotten more announcements. The one announcement we did get was just a small one from Bit Digital. They've secured some more contracts. But yes, that's going to be a big piece of the puzzle. And some of the leaders in 2024, let's put it this way. One of our members earlier, pessimistic, well, no, it was Miner Deegan, pointed out that, you know, 2024, people were not interested in the Bitcoin miners. They were not interested in the miners that were hodling. They were interested in AI, and which really is high performance computing, and it's really electric infrastructure. And that was the play in 2024. It is my opinion that both strategies, there will be companies with both strategies in and out of that have fantastic 2025s. So, you know, the HODL strategy in 2024 did not pay off for investors at all. I do think it's going to pay off big for investors in 2025, but I also think I have no problem with companies that are diversifying, getting additional revenue streams, and getting into high performance computing. At the moment, it's super, super high gross profit margin stuff, even higher than the gross profit margins that Bitcoin miners make even during a bull market. So, you know, if you can do it right and get good contracts, it's just the competition is immense. That's the biggest thing that I would say on the HPC high performance computing AI stuff is there's an awful lot of infrastructure being built. And if you guys saw, you know, there was a press conference that, you know, Oracle, those three companies came out and said, we're going to invest $500 billion over the next 4 years in artificial intelligence. And I mean, it's my opinion, if you look at the money that gets spent on artificial intelligence, obviously a lot of it is direct research and development for the technology itself, but most of that money is going to be energy infrastructure, because we do not have the infrastructure in the United States to support these data centers that they want to exist. Got an article on that too, on how much the Bitcoin mining data centers saved Texas in the last year.
So think about this, Tom. You had an executive order of $500 billion being pumped into AI, right? The executive order was different. So we'll go through the executive order, but you had a meeting with the president and three, you know, different representatives from
big players. It was 3 computer companies, one of which was the OpenAI. And
what was the 500 billion about?
That all $500 billion is private industry investment money that's being, quote, promised. Now, some people have come out and said, those 3 companies don't have $500 billion to invest in that, which is almost certainly true. But they have access to money, and there's others that are going to follow. So I think it was more the point that, Oracle, sorry, that's the name I was thinking about. Yeah, OpenAI, Oracle. So they came out and said, one of them had come out and said, we're going to do 100 billion. And, Trump joked and said, well, why not 200 billion? So now it's a couple of months later and they're saying, well, over the next 4 years, we're going to try and do 500 billion. The point is, whether it's them or not, just Microsoft alone said they're doing 80 billion in infrastructure for AI for themselves in 2025. Now, there's not too many companies that can afford to do that, but, 2 or 3, they're spending 80 billion on their own. So there's a lot of competition there. But I do think it still moves the needle. I mean, investors are still, the AI is still in my opinion. So, the companies that are getting involved in that, even whether or not it's affecting their company financially yet, it's been a boost to their stocks in a lot of cases, especially for the hybrid Bitcoin miners that have leaned into that. TeraWulf in specific really doesn't have anything tangible to show for it other than the fact that they've set up big expectations that they're going to be getting a lot of contracts. So, they were the number 1 or number 2 performing Bitcoin mining stock of the year in 2024. And, they did not grow their Bitcoin mining business very much at all. Now they will. They intend to stay in that part of the deal too. Andrew said, I'm jumping in the middle of somebody's conversation, so I don't want to try and backtrack and figure out what that is.
I still think that we're going to look back at these prices at the end of this year and these Bitcoin miners and be like, oh my goodness, I could have bought that for that.
I agree with you, George. I'll just name some. CleanSpark at $11.53. We'll look at the chart later. This was a $25 stock last year. And this is a company that executed, in my opinion, at the highest level. And, their stock has tanked. There's just no sense to it. So I think you're going to look at companies like CleanSpark. I think you're going to look at a lot of these companies. But CleanSpark, Riot is up dramatically. We'll look at that. Year to date, Riot's doing very well. They were, the second or third worst performer. They were down. In 2024, they ended the year lower than they started the year. There were 6 Bitcoin miners that were red in 2024. Riot was one of them. I still think you're going to look at, Marathon at $19.99, Riot in the 13s, Iron in the 13s. Bitfarms at $1.63. I mean, I know everybody's lost faith in Bitfarms, but if you look at their actual operations and you go through their investor packet, I still have confidence. Now, I will say they made they had their series of stuff. We all know, right? The movement on the board of directors, firing their CEO, moving the goal lines on when they're going to hit 21 exahash. That was a big one because they had promised, and then they did not deliver. So more so than anything else, I think that's really, but even with all of that said, for Bitfarms to be at $1.63 is, in my opinion, just absolutely ridiculous. So we'll see. We'll see who's the big performers this year. And I'll give you, I think Bitfarms is a higher risk reward than maybe, some of the bigger names. But I think they've been priced to fail. More so than the rest of these. But most of these companies are way off their highs. There's only a few companies that are anywhere near their high. Most of them are way down from their highs of just last year. And Bitcoin's way up. So they were at, some of these companies were double what they are today when Bitcoin was half of what it is today. Now, in the middle, we had the halving. But here, I want to go to an article because I thought this was this is the kind of stuff people need to see that they don't realize. So let's switch over to an article. If you could be so kind and hit the like button. We're at 58 likes. We're going for 100 likes. And then we'll see if we can get to 200 likes, but it does the stream. It helps it in real time. So it is much appreciated. Much appreciation to everybody here, particularly to subscribers and particularly to our members, which I see a lot of in the comments section. So I want to go to this article because I don't think anybody understands this yet. The financial statements for the Bitcoin miners in Q3 or the quarter ended September 30th, 2024. Those were some of the worst financial statements in the Bitcoin miner history. But that is about to change. That's about to turn on its head. And, here's an article that's getting out ahead of that, talking about it. The financial statements at December 31st, some of them are going to be just out of this world. And there is no way in my mind when Marathon puts their financials out that people are going to say this is a $20 stock. So that's why I think a lot of these are going to run up. They're going to be very surprised. And there should be no surprise. We get monthly operational updates. We know the size. We know what the reward is. We know the size of the network. So here, I'm going to go to the article. Bitcoin miners are seeing a 3x profit margins despite higher network difficulty. This is from Glassnode. Difficulty regression model estimates the cost to mine a single Bitcoin at approximately $33,900. So call it $34,000. So what they're saying is, based on Bitcoin, at the time of this article at $105,000, every incremental dollar is all going to gross profit, right? Because they're already clearing the cost to mine. So every incremental dollar, Bitcoin going from 50 to 60 to 70 to 80 to 90 to 100 to 100, it hit 109. By the way, since last we talked, Bitcoin hit a new all-time high. It got over 109,000. So with Bitcoin at those numbers, the profit margins are tripling on average is what they're saying. And now, obviously, every single Bitcoin miner has a different fleet and a different, they're all not in the identical place, but this is on the average. But the point is, profitability for the Bitcoin miners is going up drastically. And if Bitcoin continues to go up, that's only going to continue. So, they're suppressing these. They're suppressing them, I'll be honest, for a lot longer than I thought they could. And so that's why I gave up a year and a half ago. I gave up on any short-term price targets. I have my price target for the peak of this bull run. And I just don't know when it's going to happen. And in the middle, I don't know what they're going to do to us. But when you see articles like this, Bitcoin miners, how many industries just tripled their profits, their profit margins in the last 6 months? Because that's what's happened to the Bitcoin miners. And, they're being disregarded by and large as, not interesting, not interested, or some of them are being priced as losers. Back and see what Bitcoin is doing. So we're hanging around at 105,000. That's a very strong place to be. We closed last Friday at 104,700. We're still at 105,000 a week later. Yesterday, we did dip down to 103. So we've had our ups and downs, but all the while, I think it held 100,000. We tested 99,000 sometime in the last couple of weeks, but I think 100's the new line of support. I really do. In fact, we'll do that. Let's see. How do you feel about the Bitcoin miners? We're going to call this 100 votes exactly. We'll call that the final. So the answer to that poll is, okay, great, all in, 37%. That was the winner. Nervous, waiting to see what happens, 30%. Good, holding, buying the dips, 21%. And I give up, I'm out, 10%. We had 100 people, so 10 people have had it, and they're out. And I think that kind of reflects the market. In fact, I think the market is more out than that, right? People who are here, people who go to a stream like this are more inclined to be Bitcoin and Bitcoin miner investors than the average person. So I think, the retail hasn't moved in at all at this point. So I think we have big green days, weeks, months ahead. I just, don't know when that day is. But I'm going to go to the year to date because 2025 is starting out the way, we talked about the last week in December. I think 2025 is going to be a very good year for the Bitcoin miners. I'm expecting, at least 8 to 10 of the 12 Bitcoin miners that we follow to outperform Bitcoin this year. And I'm expecting some of them to double or more what Bitcoin does this year. And remember, I'm expecting Bitcoin to do big things. So this is all on top of that. So let's go take a look. Let me find. Okay, so I don't even know if we looked at what happened this week yet. So let's take a look at this week. So, we had that one day in there on Monday in the United States, there was no trading. So a lot of these stocks didn't trade. Some of them trade on other exchanges around the world. So they did trade on Monday. Tuesday was just a wipeout. It was just red. It was a bad, bad day. But you'll see the rest of the week, Bitcoin, like I told you, finished $100 off from where it was last Friday. So that's a 0% change. So to me, you've got TeraWolf down 1%, BitDeer down 1%, BitDigital at 0, Marathon at 0, Riot at 1%. That's all hanging right around what Bitcoin did. But you got Core Scientific up 7%, Cypher up 9%, and Iron, who had a gigantic at-the-market offering this week, and we'll go take a look at that. They crashed on Tuesday, and they still finished. They were down 15% on Tuesday. So they went from down 15% week to date in the middle of the day Tuesday to up 11% at the end of the day Friday. So that's a 26% run up from, Tuesday in the middle of the day. So Iron had a spectacular week, and nobody had an awful week, right? For Bitcoin to be at 0, okay, CleanSpark, Bitfarm, Hut, and Hive were all down 3%. That is not a nightmare scenario. It's not what we're looking for, but I don't think there was anything wrong with this week. And then when you pile that on top of what's happened year to date, so let's go take a look at year to date. Any thoughts on this one, George? Anything jumping out at you?
Nothing.
Are you in any of these, or are you out for now?
No, I'm in just CleanSpark, Marathon, and Hive.
And Hive, that's right. You jumped into Hive, which
That's the only one making any money for me right now.
I'm not in Hive, but I'm very interested in it. When we look at, we'll go to the cycle bottom and see what things have done from there. And you're going to see from the cycle bottom, Hive is the worst performing stock out of these 12 stocks. And I don't think it's a bad company. So I think there could be a lot of room to run. And Alexander is saying, what happened to Tom's 3x leverage? I'm trying to be conservative. I do think some of these will 3x. I think particularly the ones that were red in 2024, I expect those to 3x what Bitcoin does. But remember, they're going to which means they're going to have to do a lot more than 3x because Bitcoin's, I expect, to go up a lot. So that means maybe a 5 or 6 or 7x for some of these. But I don't like to talk those numbers, right? I try and keep things, as conservative as possible. My point is, I'm expecting some of these to significantly outperform Bitcoin. What that amount is, I don't know, but I'm expecting 2025 to be a very good year for the Bitcoin miners, whereas 2024, we'll go take a look right now. This was not a good year for the Bitcoin miners. A couple of them, some of them did well. Core Scientific was up 153%. TeraWolf was up 136%. BitDeer was up 120%, while Bitcoin was up 122%. So I don't think anybody that held those is complaining. Yes, you actually want more than that because they're higher risk. So we should be getting higher reward when Bitcoin performs. Now, the halving was in the year 2024, so everything takes a hit for that. So that was kind of a reset. And you'll see 6 companies in the red. Bitfarms was down almost 50% last year. That's why I'm saying these numbers are ridiculous. Bitfarms could pull a triple and still not be half the price it was in the last bull market. And I understand they've done some dilution since then, but they're 10 times the size of the company they were. So, you get what you pay for. Clive said, did my super chat get lost? Did I skip over? Sorry about that, Clive. That's my mistake. Clive, thank you very much for the super chat, and thank you for being a member. Much appreciated. Clive said, Hive is diversified in HPC. The stock should be doing better. So I'm in 100% agreement, Clive, and I'm not invested in Hive, but I'm looking at that one. If I add anything, it's going to be Hive. That's the next thing, and the next chart I show you is why I'm thinking that way. Hive has been low profile. They have not had any gigantic purchases, no flashy press releases, but they've had a series of small actions that they've taken, and they've basically replaced their entire fleet. They've gotten the fleet efficiency way down. They are growing. They expect to grow significantly in 2025, I believe from 6 exahash to 15 exahash. So, and they have, the high performance computing element and component to what they were doing. Right? Remember, they used to mine Ethereum, so they had machines before anybody. Now those machines are so outdated at this point that they're of no use, I would guess. But they are diversified, and so let's go to this cycle low chart. This was recommended by one of the members, and I love this chart. So this takes each Bitcoin miner from its low in this past cycle, so the low in the crypto winter. I will tell you, for most of these, that was in the last week of December of 2022. One of these companies was in bankruptcy. One of them didn't exist, so it was a different date for those. But for the vast majority of these, this was late December 2022. And Bitcoin obviously double bottomed in November and December of 2022, hitting around 15,500-ish. So since the bottom, Bitcoin's up 578%. You'll see Core, I don't even put a number on it. It's up because it went through bankruptcy. It got down to 4%. It's up 20,000% or whatever. But realistically, Cypher's up 1,400%. There's your 3x leverage. This is what we want out of our Bitcoin miners. Iron's up 1,200%. TeraWolf's up over 1,000%. And if you're just holding Bitcoin, you're a happy camper. You're up 578%. But we have, BitDeer is jumped ahead of Bitcoin. BitDigital just jumped ahead of Bitcoin. HUT, CleanSpark, and Marathon are, one good week away from jumping ahead of Bitcoin. But again, we want a lot more than that. We do want these doubles or triples because we've taken a much bigger risk holding these stocks than had you just held Bitcoin itself. So you don't want to just break even on this. But it is interesting to see most of these companies have caught up. Some of them have already broken out. The ones lagging behind, Bitfarms and Riot. Now, I will tell you, for most of the year, Riot's come out of its funk, and it's actually up quite a bit. Even though it's still behind Bitfarms, it was much worse. And I think people... They stopped fixating. They've done a couple of things. They stopped fixating on this. Bitfarms and Riot were in a hostile takeover situation. Riot trying to take over Bitfarms. They offered a $2.30 bid, which at the time seemed ludicrous. Now it's trading at $1.60 something, but I still think $2.30 is ridiculous as a shareholder. I personally would never vote for that. None of this is financial advice, of course. So, you guys invest in whatever you want in, and please do your due diligence. And please know, as all these charts are showing, this is a wildly volatile space. This is one of the most volatile spaces in the market. But look at Hive. That's, back to Clive and his comment. Hive's only up 127% off of its cycle low. That is ridiculous. So I think Hive is, if the question is, do you believe that they're going to do what they said they're going to do? Three things. Number one, and they said they're going to get themselves to 15 exahash. I think they're going to get their fleet efficiency down to something like 17 exahash. And don't quote me. Go look. They said all this in their press release. So, are they going to do that? But more so than that, I think people didn't notice because it was a slow, steady drip. I don't think people understood that they essentially replaced almost their entire fleet for newer machines. So they're down to like 21 or 22 joules per terahash, which is very, very competitive with everybody on here. There's one or two that are doing even better than that. I'm seeing, I'll show you in Iron's press release. And Iron and BitDeer are talking about machines that are, somewhere between 5 joules per terahash and 8 joules per terahash. BitDeer's making their own machines. And so we'll see if that's what the future holds and how far that is out. But right now, anywhere from 17 to 22 exahash, that's much better than the entire network is doing. So the publicly traded companies have gotten very efficient. Hive is among them, and it has not participated at all. It's in dead last place if you look at from the cycle bottom, which to me either says they're going to fail or there's an awful lot of potential room to the upside. So that's what you got to decide. Did Hive get left behind? They're going to fail at this, or are they going to do what they said and have a big run? So I don't own Hive. I'm looking at it. Thank you, Clive.
I love Hive.
George, you did buy Hive. We've looked at this a couple of times, and one of them, you were like, let's do it. You bought it, so.
Here's the thing. I can tell you one thing. I don't think these miners will be this at the end of this quarter at the latest. I was saying the end of this month.
You think they'll break out?
Yeah, I just don't see how they can be there.
So here, this is year to date. We have not looked at, so this is 2025. We just looked at 2024, which was I don't want to call it a train wreck, but when half the Bitcoin miners, forget outperform Bitcoin, they went down on the year. Well, this year is looking very different. You've got Bitcoin up 12% so far this year. And again, I understand it's early, but you've got 8 of the Bitcoin miners beating that, and you've got a lot of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that are 2xing or 3xing what Bitcoin is doing. This is what I expect from the Bitcoin miners. Right? And I don't expect all 12 to go straight to the moon. I don't expect all 12 to succeed equally. These are 12 very different companies. So you're going to have some winners and you're going to have some losers and you're going to have some that are in the middle. But I expect the top 6, I expect them to double or triple what Bitcoin does this year. That's, again, not financial advice. That's my expectation because I feel that I've taken the extra risk to invest in these. But you'll see Iron is up 36% this year. Riot, which was a dog last year, is up 33% this year. Hut's up 27%, Cypher 27%, BitDigital 26%, CleanSpark 25%, Marathon 19%, Core Scientific 14%. Then you've got 3 that are in the green, but they're, TeraWulf's equal to Bitcoin. Now, also, you got to look because TeraWulf had a fantastic 2024. So, it had a big part of its run. So it may not keep up with these guys. Some of these guys like Riot have to do this to even begin to hope to ever catch up to what TeraWulf's already done. So, that's why I like this chart from the cycle low. This puts everybody on an even playing field. What have you done from the bottom compared to what Bitcoin's done? And you'll see, right, like a company like TeraWulf's already up 1,000%. So Riot's got to triple to just catch where TeraWulf already was. And I don't know. Will they do that? We don't know.
Edmund's asking about closed captioning. There's no way you can do it with live, right?
So I went in, I understand what he's talking about. I have seen other live streams that in real time are closed caption. All of our settings, and I spent a bunch of time on this, Edmund, and I every single setting we have is to turn closed captions on. And all of our streams are in closed caption once they're done and processed. So like tonight, it'll show it in closed caption, but for whatever reason, they are not showing it in real time. And there is no setting for me to fix that. And forget trying to talk to a human being at YouTube. That's just not possible. So I've tried. I did try very hard. I know that was important, and it was important to me because, you know, you've been with us for a long time. So I did try very hard to make that happen, but we're 100% set up for closed caption. It's just doing it after the stream ends for some reason instead of live in real time. And maybe we're just too small of a channel to, I have no idea what the answer is. And it would have been nice if I could have found a way to fix that, but, and I did it myself. I asked tech support, and, you know, they spent another bunch of time, and every setting is set to on. Pardon the interruption, but I thought that was important because we do have a member who has trouble with their hearing, and, you know, I wish this was in closed caption for them in real time, but they're not doing it for us. In the meantime, if you guys could hit the like button, we're at 87 likes. We're getting close to that 100. We're going for 100 likes, which we haven't missed. So hopefully we get to our 100, and then we go for 200 likes. So let's see what we can do.
I'll be honest, I'm excited. It's just so many things are going on right now. It's going to have a run.
Bitcoin's going to have a run. You feel Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners are going to have a run?
I have a feeling that they're going to have a run that people don't even believe what's going to happen. Somebody said it, and I forgot who it was the market's having a rough time pricing Bitcoin miners. And I think that's because they're very good at what they do.
Well, these are small companies, and they're still a lot of them are heavily shorted still. And I think that short position is going to unwind itself in 2025, which this is very similar to previous cycles, right? They lag behind and then they run. So it can be quick, which is why, you know, I've taken it on the chin because I don't try to time this, because sometimes, you know, 80% of the move comes in 5% of the time. And if I happen to be out in that 5%, then I miss the whole thing.
This seems like it's shaping up like 2022, and it was the end of January, and then I remember CleanSpark took off like a bat out of you know what.
Right. So let's go back. I'm going to go back in time.
And you want to know how I remember that date? Because I lost a boatload of money.
That's right. I
lost so much money. I was like, oh, yeah, these things are never going to take off.
George had CleanSpark, and he sold covered calls out of the money that seemed like it should be fine. I mean, they were pretty short term, and they were out of the money. And this is exactly what I'm just talking about is what happened. All of a sudden, boom, CleanSpark went through the roof. And, you know, that was the worst day you could have done that, unfortunately.
Oh, my goodness.
So
I've never lost so much money in my life.
In 2023, CleanSpark was up 441%. So you can see 2023 was a phenomenal year for the Bitcoin miners. 2022, which I don't have right here, was a disaster. So this is how these run. They're very cyclical. They're extraordinarily volatile. You know, every single Bitcoin miner from the peak of November of 2021 to the bottom of the crypto winter was down somewhere between 91 and 99%. I mean, that is absolutely staggering. By the time a company gets down 91%, typically that's just a quick pit stop on the way to going out of business. But not for the Bitcoin miners. That's how these things trade. So when I talk about volatility, that's the kind of volatility you get. I think 2025 is going to look a lot more like 2023 did right here. That's my opinion.
It was
And
23 is the year that I got destroyed.
It must have been, well, and in the middle of 2024, CleanSpark took off and got to like 25. Let's go to their chart because, you know, this is what I'm saying. You got to be paying close attention.
And remember, none of this is financial advice. This is some guys talking. But I will tell you this, Tom. I think that this year is just going to be astronomical. I haven't, and this is a guy who's down a lot of money. And I'm not running. I got to take this call.
Okay. If you're following along with CleanSpark, if you held on, this bottomed out at $1.74 in December of 2022. And, you know, I don't have a line here, but in March of 2024, this got to just under $25, $24.72. This is at $11.50. This stock could double, and it won't get back to where it was in March of 2024 when Bitcoin was at $50,000. So, you know, it just, now I know the halving happened right after that, and so there's some factor to that, but CleanSpark's doubled their exahash since then, and they performed operationally very well. So, you know, just to get back to where they were, and I don't think that represents the cycle high for CleanSpark. They need to go up 115% just to get back to where they were, you know, less than a year ago. And to me, they should jump off from there. So I think there's more room to the upside than that, in my opinion. So, you know, CleanSpark's one of my bigger positions, and that's why. These companies have been punished badly, and they've been shorted heavily, and so we'll see. We'll see if all that unwinds and better things are ahead. Alim is asking, no more cycles? So, you know, that's a valid question. Have we matured to the point where we're not going to get crypto winters where Bitcoin pulls back 75 or 80%? I don't know. I thought it had done so last cycle, but we got another full-blown crypto winter in 2022. So here, you know, I'll say again, I think we have matured past a crypto winter. I don't think we've, you know, markets have cycles, and, you know, we'll have bull markets and bear markets, and in cryptocurrency, the bear markets are probably going to be more volatile than the bull market, than in the equities. But even if they're double that, then, you know, a 40% dip is a monster dip. So that's what I'm expecting. I do think we're going to keep having cycles, and I do think we're going to have bear markets, but I'm more expecting, you know, a 35 or 40% pullback. You know, Bitcoin got 520+% pullbacks in 2024. You know, and it was up over 100% in 2024. So it was a very bullish year, a phenomenal year, but it still had 5 times where it did a 20% or more pullback in the middle. That's the volatility of it.
Tom, I had a call out saying to talk about Pogo. Talk about altcoins.
Aha. Yeah, because that's
funny.
the third. We got Bitcoin, we got the Bitcoin miners, we got altcoins. Go.
So here's we go. XCN. I would wait for a pullback and then buy it. The Onyx. It's the Onyx coin. That's been a fun coin, but they think that somebody's involved in a pump and dump. You're watching a real life pump and dump in front of your eyes.
So now is not the time to buy, it sounds like.
No, I would not. I don't know how it's going to shake out, but I'm sure everybody knows who Justin's son is. He's Tron, and he's like, this is what makes, you know, these coins worthless. It's because of these scams like this pump and dump. I think that they're going to still do a strategic reserve for Bitcoin and at the same time do a strategic reserve for XRP, by the way. And I think that's a first 100-day program that Trump has. So whenever that happens, whether it happens in, the first 30 days, but I'm pretty sure in the first 100 days we will see that.
I agree. I think that's on the 100-day agenda. And like I said at the top of the stream, it definitely was not, Bitcoin is not inauguration speech material. Now, he didn't even mention Bitcoin in Davos. He focused on AI. But then that night, he signed a Bitcoin and crypto executive order. So let's talk about that for a second, because that starts the ball rolling. It wasn't the be-all, end-all. We did not start a reserve. People had their hopes. I tried to dampen everybody's hopes for the last several weeks, if not a month, that this is not going to be day one. There's no way this is making the day one agenda. It's going to take a bit, but we're going to see big progress in a reasonably short period of time. So I'll go to a couple of different articles. Trump signs executive order promoting crypto, paving the way for digital asset stockpile. So he did not refer to it as a reserve. He called it a stockpile. So President Donald Trump signs an executive order on Thursday that includes working towards developing a national digital asset stockpile. So they put a committee together on that. And then the other bullet point here is Trump, who was a critic of crypto in his first administration, campaigned on a very different message in 2024. Obviously, he went to the Bitcoin conference. He has said straight out, I want the United States to be a leader in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And that is what this executive order got into. But it was really just opening the door to say, let's get some teams together and some committees together. These are our objectives. Let's see. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Thursday to promote the advancement of cryptocurrencies in the U.S. and to work towards potentially developing a national digital asset stockpile. So that would be maybe not just Bitcoin, others. Quote, the digital asset industry plays a crucial role in innovation and economic development in the United States, as well as our nation's international leadership. So that's verbiage from the executive order. So this is what I'm saying. It is a priority. No. Is it the same as some of the other, I can't afford my food? No. But this is a priority. The first executive order of many, I suspect. But what we really need is legislation and clarification from the SEC, which I think is coming. Let me find another article because, okay, so this isn't it, but Senator Loomis to lead a crypto vital U.S. Senate panel with digital asset industry defenders. So this is the U.S. Senate Banking Committee has officially set its roster for the new Digital Assets Committee. So, Cynthia Loomis is on this. Obviously, she's extremely pro cryptocurrency, pro Bitcoin. So here's another thing that's already rolled out, but that's not even what I was going to go to. Let me find it. I'll tell you what I'm looking for while I'm looking for it. The SEC has formed a crypto task force. So, we lived in a world. Okay, so here it's official. Gary Gensler is out at the SEC. So to me, that was more so than any other position in government. This was the individual who, for whatever reason, he was no friend to cryptocurrency. That's just is what it is, right? I mean, he started every lawsuit he could find, to the point where the court just said your decision was arbitrary and capricious, and you have to give a reason why you will not provide clarity on your rules and regulations for cryptocurrency. So that was handed down to Gary Gensler on the way out the door about a week before he left. So I suspect you're going to see we will have a new chair of the SEC, and I suspect you're going to see all the clarification we've been looking for, I believe, is on the way. Can't find that other article where it talks about, but essentially one of the things the SEC has already done is create a crypto task force. So that was on day one. They said, okay, let's create a crypto task force. We got to get clarity into the crypto universe so that we can become a leader here in crypto instead of, being an adversary. So the tone has changed. Forget what your politics are and who you like and who you don't like. I feel like we can all agree Gary Gensler did not like cryptocurrency. Most importantly, I think he wanted it under his domain, and he was, doing everything he can to put it on hold until he could make that happen. And it just, it's not going to happen.
That's another thing everybody's talking about now in the stream. Taxes. We might be in a situation where in crypto, especially Bitcoin, they could be tax-free. Tell me that wouldn't be amazing.
Right. So we have to wait.
What happens to the Bitcoin miners and Bitcoin if that happens? Does it go crazy? Or does it go way down? Does it go to $10? You know what I mean?
You would think that would be a boom to the crypto industry. And I want to address a couple of things from some members in the comments section.
And I will tell you something. Tom will not, even if he got information from somebody else, Tom will not even trust their information without reading it with his own eyes and calculating it with his own eyes. Yes.
So I don't know if Frederick, who's a member, is saying, are you just reading posts on X? I actually don't even look at X. I have a list on X of all the Bitcoin mining companies and their CEOs. Those are literally the only tweets I read on Twitter or X, if you will. I've never even looked at another tweet from anybody else. And that's just a small part of my due diligence. And I know Frederick is trying to make a point. He said, please, for the love of God, address the short interest situation. So I've talked a couple of times that there's massive short interests in these companies. And, the thing about a short interest is, are they going to get flushed out? It's if and or when. And when that happens, you could they could gradually get themselves out, or we could get into a short squeeze. So I look at these companies at these prices. A part of it, yes, is because some of them are over 20% shorted. That's a huge amount of short interest in a company. So at some point, are those people going to have to, get themselves out of these positions and undo what they've done? So one of these green days, where we have had many green days in the Bitcoin mining industry, where every single Bitcoin miner was up double digits, sometimes up 20%. Some of them have had 30 or 40 or 50% up days. So we have those kind of days. And it's at some point that the shorts are going to get pushed out. And if it's not before the financial state, to me, the latest that could happen is when we get the year-end financial statements and people see what happened in Q4 and how different it looks than Q3. So I'm expecting all these short interests to go away in the next 90 days. That doesn't mean that a short interest is going to go down to zero. Some people will double down if they have enough money, right? These are small stocks. They can double down on that. But I suspect most people will realize that we are now in the pump phase of the crypto miners. They probably, most likely, the big short people have options protecting themselves against the disaster scenarios. So, they'll unwind both sides of those trades and get the heck out of here. And these stocks can do what they're supposed to do. which a lot of them have been held behind. Marathon is getting held behind. CleanSpark is getting held behind. There's huge short interest in both of those companies, and they're not the only ones. So I did read an article, Robert, saying MicroStrategy has a problem with taxes. I read an article, and I think we're going to have to wait and see. There's something that if you really ask every accountant, they'll admit they know nothing about, and it's the alternative minimum tax calculation. So somebody has put together a scenario where under the alternative minimum tax situation, MicroStrategy could owe taxes on their unrealized gains on Bitcoin. Now, I will tell you, it's been a long time since I've been in any of that, but I can tell you, I remember even in college, we did it on, back when it was a chalkboard. The teacher we did one problem, and he spent 2 full lectures, got to the end of it, erased the whole thing and said, sorry, that's wrong. And every person in the room had a different answer. So the alternative minimum tax is a very complicated thing. I don't propose to know anything about it. I think all of that's going to get unwound anyway. I don't think they're going to be taxing unrealized gains. That's just my opinion. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Ty's mentioning the market cap of these companies are small. Some of these companies continue to dilute. Some of them have flat out said, we're not going to dilute for the time being. And it's one of the reasons I'm expecting CleanSpark to make a run. CleanSpark and Bitfarms have both put in their investor presentation and said at their investor meetings, we're funded. Bitfarms is funded to 21 exahash, and CleanSpark is funded. And they did some convertible debt, and they said, and their at the market offering is done and closed, and for the time being, they have said they're not opening a new one. So,
you ready, Tom?
I'm ready.
Let's see if anybody remembers this little thing. This just in, breaking news. President Trump signs executive order banning the creation of a central bank digital currency, also known as CBDC.
Did that just happen?
That just what's a day ago.
So that was a campaign promise. And it's really his pro-Bitcoin position is a big part of his anti-CBDC. He does not want a digital currency. I think those of us in the cryptocurrency universe agree we don't want a digital currency. We don't want a digital dollar. That's the opposite. That's the ultimate, right? We're trying to get decentralized. That's the ultimate in centralization. Already people are frustrated with how centralized the cryptocurrency world is turning, versus its more pure, very early days. And so no CBDC. We know, and we know not Gary Gensler, Jerome Powell has said he will not create a CBDC unless Congress passes a bill. So that's where we're at. We've got an executive order that we can't do one. Could Congress overturn that? Yes, but, right now, this Congress isn't going to. In 2 years or 4 years, could that happen? Quite possibly. So yeah, we're going to get, this is what I'm saying. We're just going to keep getting a steady stream of news. All the while, Bitcoin seems to just be hanging out at $105,000, which is very strong. I mean, these are big numbers. So let's see. Let's just go through a couple of these real quick. A couple of press releases came out this week.
I have to say one more thing before you get into that. Do you realize Operation Choke Point still exists?
Well then I'm going to switch because yes. So let me find something because
did you have something about that?
Well, I think this is a part of Operation Choke Point, and I still actually think I saved here. This is from a while ago, December 8th. Proof of Operation Choke Point 2.0. I won't read everybody to this. It's a couple of months old, but Operation Choke Point was a real thing. And there's another article that came out much more. The only reason I'm going to read this is another one that came out much more recently that I know I saved. Okay, congressional Republicans in a hot pursuit of Biden-era's crypto debanking. The House Oversight and Senate Banking Committees are probing accusations that the U.S. regulators blocked crypto insiders from banking. So that's a big part. That is what Choke Point is, trying to get money back and forth from crypto land to banks. And they did everything in their power. And that crossing that bridge.
Still today, if it's not a KYC, I can't move money into that exchange.
Right.
I can, but I wouldn't because it's too scary for me.
Right. So that's the situation they've set up. And this is now, again, this is they're investigating this. So
Tom, I tried for literally 4 weeks to move money into an exchange that was in Europe that's not here, so that I could buy a coin that no one really cares about. I couldn't use that exchange.
Right. It's not easy, and I know somebody on here will say there's a workaround, and I'm sure there is, but for 99% of the people, they don't understand deep dive workarounds on the system. And for the banks themselves, now, so I'm going to go to the opposite of this. So now here we are, because I think this is news that nobody really paid attention to, that, in my opinion, is monstrous news. So here at the opposite end of the spectrum, Morgan Stanley figuring out how to act as transactors of crypto. Morgan Stanley will work with the U.S. Treasury and other regulators to figure out how it can offer crypto in a safe way. Just to put in perspective, Morgan Stanley has $1.6 trillion under management. Right now, banks can't hold cryptocurrency. They can't sell it to or transact it with their customers, right? All of that is part of Operation Choke Point. If the banks get into this, and it looks to me like, it's no coincidence that we got a new administration, and now all of a sudden Morgan Stanley saying, hey, because listen, you think the banks want to be, they're the ones who are going to lose in the end. If they can't get involved in this game, then it's just going to pass them right by. So ultimately, it is my opinion that every bank will be involved in cryptocurrency. Now, some people won't like that because it's a centralized versus a decentralized thing. But to me, adoption is adoption. The more adoption of Bitcoin currency, the more money, pools of, trillion-dollar pools of money that have access to Bitcoin, the more buying pressure there will be and the higher the Bitcoin price will go. So that's the bottom line. What we want to live in is a world someday where anybody that has money, if they want to, they can invest in cryptocurrency. That's where we need to move towards, and we will live in that world one day. In the United States, we don't live in that world today. It's too hard for some people. The banks aren't even allowed to do it. There's no clarity from the SEC, but you can see the SEC has now set up a task force. So they're going to, between the Treasury Department, the SEC, between Congress, which will pass some laws, and between the executive orders that are going to come out, we're going to get a lot of clarity in the United States. And this is, this is just one multi-trillion-dollar pool of money. There's a lot more where that came from. And some of them which are a lot bigger than this, that really haven't even started to buy Bitcoin yet. So to me, that's that's a big part of my bullish feeling on why we're not even close to the end of this run up. Whether or not we have a pullback in the middle, who knows? But I think we got a long way to go with this Bitcoin bull market. And I think it mitigates those crypto winters and turns them into just bear markets, which is will be a little more tolerable. Miner Deegan is saying short interest is huge in CleanSpark because their power sucks and can't do AI high performance computing even if they want to. I mean, they've stated that they don't want to. It sounds like Miner Deegan, you do not like CleanSpark, but I will tell you, conversely, their gross profit is really high. They're competitive with the leaders in gross profit on each Bitcoin they mine, and they have over 10,000 Bitcoin in hodl. So, you know, as Bitcoin goes up, they're going to get the benefit of that mark to market on a quarterly basis. So I think CleanSpark's going to make a lot of money in 2025. A lot.
And think about this, Tom. What companies actually even make money?
Right, exactly. I'm going to go to one. I'm going to go to one that I know.
I mean, here's what, to me, this is why I never can understand the stock market. What is Rivian right now?
You want me to go to that one first, and then I'll go to the one I'm going to go to?
Yeah, if you don't mind. Because I would almost bet my last dollar that Rivian's going out of business.
So Rivian is now a $13 billion company. Rivian, life to date, has lost, I don't know, what was it, like 10 or $15 billion? Look,
that's crazy, isn't it?
They lose $5 billion. In 2023, they lost $5 billion. In 2022, they lost $6.7 billion. In 2021, they lost $4.6 billion. If we look at what the analysts think, they think, look, here, they're going to lose another $4.79 a share. That would be another $5 billion loss this year. Here's a company that's putting 4 or 5 years in a row together of losing $5 billion a year, and they're a $13 billion company. You've got a company like Marathon, right, conversely. So, I mean, you can't even do a price book on a company that has negative book, right? There is no price. So if I go and look at their statistics, it won't have a price book. They're saying price book of 2, but that, I mean, they have negative equity, so there is no price book. If you look at Marathon, Marathon's a $6 billion company. Marathon's going to make $1 billion. So Rivian's going to lose $5 billion, and they're a $13 billion company. Marathon's going to make $1 billion, and they're a $6 billion company. So this is the thing. This is the thing with the stock market. Most of the time, 90-something% of the time, a stock is not reflected at its fair value. Some of them may be overpriced because they're in a bubble. Some of them may be way underpriced because they're out of favor and things are cyclical and they're being shorted. But I always feel like at some point each stock intersects with its fair market value at some point if you're patient enough to wait for it. That's my philosophy in investing. You can agree with it or disagree with it. You know, for the people that do swing trades, I know there's people that make, you know, the money that I make once, they make 2 or 3 or 4 times because they swing trade and they're successful. But there's other people that swing trade. You know, for everybody that bought low and sold high, there's somebody else out there that bought high and sold low. So I don't want to get involved in that, but I understand, and congratulations to the people that have a beat on that and make money. And Frederick is saying the concern is, will the investing in Bitcoin and MicroStrategy and the shorting of the Bitcoin miners ever subside? That's the only thing we care about right now, and that's from Frederick. So that has been a trade that was on. That was a 2024 trade that was on big time. I think you're going to find out that is not the 2025 trade. Now, that's speculation on my part. I don't know the future, but I think you're going to see that trade unwind. Those things don't last forever. And, you know, as companies start to become hugely profitable, and as Bitcoin continues to run, Bitcoin's still not top of mind in retail investors, and certainly the Bitcoin miners are not even on the radar of retail investors yet. So the FOMO hasn't even begun. I do think we'll get it, and then they'll go from undervalued to overvalued. And somewhere in the middle, like I said, they'll cross paths with their fair market value. That's how I feel about it.
Is there any chance that any of these will be a short squeeze?
I mean, yes, a lot of these have the type of short interest, 20%, 25%, where they could have a short squeeze. I never invest under the premise that I'm going to get a short squeeze. I will invest under the premise that ultimately the shorts are going to unwind their positions in the good companies. But yeah, absolutely. You could get, and that's why I've said, we've seen with Bitcoin miners, many, many, many times, we've seen them have up 30, 40, or 50% days in one day. That's a short squeeze, right? Bitcoin takes off, takes everybody by surprise, and all of a sudden, one of these stocks is up 54% in a day. So yes, short squeezes are possible. I don't ever count on them. I more count on them, the positions to unwind themselves in an orderly fashion. But yeah, we could get that at any time. Especially, I know some of the things you feel like Bitcoin is going to do. If some of those things happen, we could see days that, blow people's mind.
I think, should I say, my thoughts are crazy, guys, just so you know. I think people don't even understand what Bitcoin can do. And I would say will do.
So let's go in response to that. Let's talk about, I saved 3 different price articles talking about price point. Let me find them. Okay, this is the smallest one. This was a couple of weeks ago. Bitcoin bull Tom Lee. A lot of you probably know Tom Lee. He's on CNBC. He's a talking head all the time. Sees Bitcoin reaching as high as 250,000 by year end. That's 2025. So that's a big name. Now he's a bull. He's a Bitcoin bull. It was right there in the title, and there's no denying. But he's a pretty smart dude, in my opinion. I don't agree with everything he says, but I don't agree with everything anybody says, and most likely neither do any of you. But he's got a price target of 250,000. I'm starting to hear more and more and more of this 200 to 250,000 talk. That's higher than I was expecting, but I'm certainly not going to be surprised. But wait, there's more if I can find it. Some of the stuff that I disappears. All right, I'm going to skip and go to the mothership then. The big. Bitcoin could cross $1 million by year end if it continues to follow the 2017 cycle. This from Van Straten. Currently, Bitcoin is up approximately 550%. We looked at that on our charts from the cycle lows, which aligns with previous cycles. So it's on track for previous cycles. Now, the 2021 cycle did not act like the 2017 cycle. So, there's a lot of theories on that, diminishing returns as Bitcoin grows over time, or was it that there was a series of events, whether you want to say they were coordinated or not, culminating in the failure of FTX, which was considered the gold standard of the entire industry, which I don't know why it was considered that. It should never have been considered that. It was a disaster nightmare. But, to have that crumble, and that was after multiple other exchanges failed. We had a stable coin and its entire ecosystem fail. So, there were driving forces to stop the last Bitcoin bull run. When I look at the catalysts ahead, they don't look like negative catalysts to me. They look like a series of positive catalysts. So I'm not saying that we're going to get to Bitcoin 1 million. That sounds insane to me. They're talking about in 2025. So to me, that is a dream too good to be true. But here's somebody doing the math saying, if it does what it did in 2017, that's where we're going. And they get a little more specific. Bitcoin continues to follow a previous cycle, especially the 2017 cycle. If it were to continue, Bitcoin would be around 186,000 by the end of Q1, so that's March 31st, and over $1 million by the end of the year. So again, I'm not saying that's happening. I'm just saying these are the types of articles I'm seeing out there. 250,000. I will tell you, because I can't find it, the price target for the other article was 589,000 by the end of 2025. Not sure where that article went, but those are just 3 articles, from the last week of people talking about, $500,000, $1 million this year. So I'm not talking about those numbers. I try to be a little more conservative, or a lot more conservative than that. And we don't need those numbers for the Bitcoin miners to do what they're supposed to do. But imagine if Bitcoin hit $500,000, where some of these companies would be. I mean, where's Marathon going to be? They already have almost 50,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. If Bitcoin runs up to $500,000, and they're mining almost 1,000 Bitcoin a month. So even if they had none on their balance sheet. Do a quick poll. All right, so we're shooting for the stars here, but I left some reality in place. Where do you see Bitcoin reaching at the 2025 high? And if you think this cycle is going to leak into 2026 and you think that's going to be the high, that's okay too. So $150,000, $200,000 to $250,000. You think it can get to $500,000? And does anybody think it can get to $1 million in this cycle? So I won't say my answer yet. George, you gotta.
I don't even think I'm going to say what I think's going to happen.
We'll just let the people speak then.
Yeah. I think those numbers mean something, what you just wrote.
Hello, Andrew. Welcome back.
Let's put it this way. If the Buffalo Bills win the Super Bowl, I think you see Bitcoin at $1 million.
That should be a which will happen first.
Right. 2 miracles right there.
We won't talk football, but we will say the Bills have the biggest game of their franchise history on Sunday.
Yeah, if they say that every other year.
Well, we said it last week too, so. But it's
No,
true.
no, no. I know, but it's like that every other year. It's the biggest game.
Yeah. Well, go Bills. And Midway number 1 brings up a good point. Dilution becomes less and less of an issue as the stock price gets higher and the volume increases. So, and the classic example of that was Iron did 2 $500 million at the market offerings. The first time they did it, their market cap was like $250 million. So, compare and contrast. And then the next time they did it, their market cap was like $2 billion. So now all of a sudden, it starts to put things into a little perspective. So that's why by the next time around, the CapEx expenditures, a lot of what these companies have done is create the infrastructure to get them through this halving and the next halving. I know they'll have to buy a lot of new machines, but that's now the smallest part of their infrastructure. Most of these companies have wisely, in my opinion, become vertically integrated from top to bottom. So they're energy companies, and creating all that infrastructure, if you've got enough infrastructure to get yourself to 100 exahash, that's where a lot of the bucks come in. And a lot of that's already been raised and spent. And so, updating your fleet, yes, it is costly, but, once these companies get to a certain size and their stocks get to a bigger size, then that's, raising a couple $100 million is not a big deal if you're, an $8 billion company.
Tom, what was the peak of the total market cap of all EV vehicles? And I would include Tesla.
Well, if you include Tesla, Tesla itself has been over $1 trillion.
Right. That's why what people don't understand is how these things can start to move.
Well, I'm going to go to a stock that actually has been extremely volatile, but it's a stock that I think is worth almost nothing. And I'll get a bunch of people mad at me, but that's okay. This is IonQ. Probably a lot of you are familiar with this. This is a quantum computing company. This company has an $8.8 billion market cap. Their revenue is $30 million. Their revenue, not their profit, right? Marathon's going to make $1 billion profit. If Bitcoin does what it's supposed to do. These guys have revenue of $30 million, and they're bigger than Marathon. So it has a lot to do. The market cycles in and out, and we get these bubbles, right? This isn't even the peak of the bubble. This was up over 50. It's at 40, and it crashed. The CEO of NVIDIA came out and basically said, listen, there's not really any quantum computing machines on this earth that actually work right now. We're 15 or 20 years away from this being, practically applicable. So, everything tanked. It has since recovered because it's the it thing right now. So, quantum computing is in. AI is in. High performance computing is in. I think Bitcoin has had the Bitcoin miners have had their cycles. They've run up. They run up, 10,000% and then down 90%. And then that's the pattern they've followed in the past. Now, I would hope as time goes forward, that starts to smooth out as this industry matures. But, this is a brand new industry. Right at the beginning of the last bull cycle, there was almost no publicly traded Bitcoin miners. Marathon and Riot got into mining Bitcoin in 2017. CleanSpark got in 2020. Now, Hive was around a little longer than that. Bitfarms was around a little longer than that. Argo blockchain, which has now basically gone to almost zero, was around a little longer than that. But this industry didn't even basically exist 5 years ago. The market cap of this industry was, maybe $100 million.
This is a funny one, Andrew. This is so I do fire restoration, water restoration, smoke restoration, and I know of 3 cars, I won't say what cars they were, that were EV vehicles that burnt down the house. And I have a tiny little company. And I can't understand. I have never in my life been to a gas engine fire where the gentleman was not in the car, had not anything to do with the car, and it just, for some reason, explodes. Never has that happened. And so basically we're putting a bomb inside a house with an electric vehicle. Sorry, I digress.
Sidetrack. So apparently there's somebody who likes IonQ because they've called me a clown and left the stream. Listen, go look it up. These guys have $30 million in revenue. Here.
No, but so here's what I think is going to happen, Tom. I think the Bitcoin miners is going to be the new EV sector.
For those of you who think I'm a clown, here it is. Trailing 12 months revenue, $37 million. $22 million the year before that. This is who they are. Are they going to be something great someday? Maybe, but we've seen these bubbles, right? We saw the EVs. Half of my EV watch list is out of business. They're worth 0.
Isn't that crazy?
So they had a bubble. We know bubbles happen in the market. It's how this works. So certain things, and you know what? If you're riding the wave, I'm not saying IonQ is a bad investment. It could double from here and then double again from there. I'm just saying, look at a company that has almost no revenue and no profitability versus a Marathon that has massive amounts of revenue and, stands to make maybe $1 billion this year, maybe more. So that's what I'm saying. I think the fair value there is going to flush itself out. You got these
Andrew,
Bitcoin.
You're living my mantra. Maybe they will call me a clown. I don't care. We are just here to get rich, not be famous. Amen to that.
That's 100% correct. That's all we're all trying to do here is take a look at this as many ways as we possibly can to try to make some sense out of it and try to make money.
Yeah, Jennifer, that's right. I'm waiting for earnings, I guess. When will we get the 4th quarter earnings for CleanSpark? That's probably the easiest one that's big.
So CleanSpark, we should get them sooner than later because I believe December is not their year end. I think they don't have a calendar year. And I do think you get extra time to put out your 10K versus your 10Qs. Your 10Qs are due 45 days after the quarter ends. So
okay, Andrew, it says there's data from the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board shows that there are approximately 25 fires for every 100,000 EV sold. Comparison, there are approximately 1,530 fires for every 100,000 gas vehicles. I'm going to call that 100% bullshit. Okay, Andrew? I would have to go and look at the numbers and try to figure out what exactly. They're probably talking about cars that get into a head-on collision and explode, and they're saying that's a fire. But I'm telling you, I have never seen a gas. Well, I'll take that back. I have seen that. I have seen so many Teslas on the side of the road that caught fire. It's not even funny. I'm on the road a lot, but I've seen that. I have not seen that many gas vehicles on the road that catches fires. You can take statistics and do whatever you want with them. You can support any decision that you make with statistics. That's the beauty of statistics. Remember the definition of what is. That's how you do it.
I guess what I would say is like all the other government data points that we get, you can look at them, but take them all with a grain of salt. right? That's the we talk about this when the jobs report comes out. We talk about this when the CPI data comes out. I look at it. We all look at it. It matters. It moves the market, but you also got to take it with a grain of salt because we see massive adjustments to them over time. So, it is what it is.
Tom, the best one is the jobs report. They over exaggerated it so bad that they had to go through and redo it. We've been lying, guys. We can't lie anymore. I mean, every single month.
Well, to be fair, their annual process is they do once a year. So every month they adjust and adjust and adjust. And once a year they do an overall final adjustment. And they were off by, just short of 1 million on the jobs number last year.
It happens. It's a rounding error.
That is definitely not a rounding error.
Tom, next year is a big year, by the way.
What's next year?
Is it 250 years for America?
That is true. That is the United States 250th anniversary next year.
We could be the crypto king of the world. You know that?
Where do you see Bitcoin reaching in 2025? So we'll finalize this poll. 150,000 won by a lot, 54%. I think, 150, I changed my price target from 150 to 175, not financial advice. That's just my personal opinion. So I get it that people are picking that. 200 to 250, 33%. That's a respectable amount of people that think we're getting to somewhere between 200 and 250,000. 10% did think we're going to get to 500,000. And then 2% said, yes, we're going to get to 1 million, which I believe is one vote. There was only 51 votes this time. So one person voted for 1 million. 5 people voted for 500,000. And
hello.
So that's, who knows? I think somebody was right on right after they got done calling me a clown.
It's only 6 o'clock. I'm getting the hammer from the lady.
That's usually our sign off at 6. So
is it?
Somebody, I'm trying to look for the comment to give them credit here. Frederick said, do you really think that people are invested in miners expecting Bitcoin to run up to 200K or 500K? Anything above 150K is pure speculation. 50-50, however, miners should be where Bitcoin is currently, be overall 2x. So, I mean, I agree. I think if you're invested in these counting on $500,000 Bitcoin, then that's probably a big mistake. I agree. 150,000, your investment thesis should hold up at Bitcoin 150,000. I think that makes sense. So
I think it makes dollars.
Yes, it should make us dollars and cents. So.
Oh, Tom did talk about the tax issue, by the way. I don't know, like 15 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, and we're going to have to wait and see. Yeah, you can check it out. It's an alternative minimum tax type of a thing, which even the experts, which I am not one of, even the experts are not experts. The machine spits. If you're honest and you go talk to your tax person, the machine spits out that number. So I'm sure somebody somewhere knows how to calculate that, but it's extremely complicated stuff.
Well, I'll sign off by saying, let's go Buffalo.
Go Bills, absolutely. Go Bitcoin. Let's hope Bitcoin has a good weekend. I'll leave you with this thought. I think we're creating a nice line of strong support at $100,000. I think if we can continue to hold that, we can start to move up to higher places. So I like everything I'm seeing. And, we'll go to I'll sign off on this. This is the Bitcoin miners year to date. So only BitDeer is in the red. A lot of these miners are already up between 25 and 35%. And we're only, 24 days into the year. So I think 2025 has started off much better. And I'm hoping to continue. So those are my thoughts. Thank you, everybody, for joining. It's much appreciated. Your thoughts, your comments. Thank you. Special thank you to all of the members. And on your way out, if you haven't, you can smash the like button. And if you like talking about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners, you can also hit the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks, everybody, and have a great weekend.